historically, we've done a spring and a fall clinic down here. And we've got a nice number of people, enough that we can all be involved, but enough that we feel like we're doing something. So I'm going to start this off with the theme of the clinic. You know, we usually have a theme. The one time it was wanting to rain, we called it the April Showers Clinic. One time it was really cold, we called it the Frostbite Clinic. I'd like this one to be That Was Easy Clinic, because I look at some of the folks that are teaching and publishing things and so on, and you look at it and say, that's pretty cool, but I don't know if I could do that. And yet, if you break it down, it gets a whole lot easier. And it's not like talking down to anybody, it's just getting it down on a level instead of a paragraph. We can break it down to a syllable. We can have it down to where we're looking at the small pieces that come together to make up the big pieces. And every time I do one of these, I say it all comes down to 3 or 4 basics. You know, will your horse move forward when you ask him to? You know, if you take your legs away, does he go somewhere? And he was asleep at the switch, so I gave him a pretty strong wake-up call. Next time I put a leg into him, he's there for me. So go forward. That's the very first thing you got to have. First thing you want when you ride a colt, will they go forward? Because you got nothing to ride if you're not going anywhere. Second thing is, will they give to the bridle? And there are all sorts of different ways. I mean, you can have them give to the bridle like so. You can have them give to the bridle more like this. So you can do it vertically, you can do it laterally, and you can ride them to your hands. So I like to have a horse that will stay underneath my hand. So I'll move my hand to the left, add some leg, and ride him to my hand. Instead of going to him, like if you're doing this, you're going to him. And you're probably insulting him just a little. And it's not as smooth. If you just pull to that point and ride the horse over to your hand, that's another way a horse can give to the bridle. Whoa. So the third thing is, does your horse get off your leg? And that's similar in the sense that when you're asking your horse to go forward, the horse is getting off both legs. But give to your leg is more directional. You want your horse to move his hip if you want his hip to move his front end if you want his front end to move off your leg as you indicate if you want to go sideways, if you want to go backward. So if you have those things, even if it's at a very elementary level, you can build it and get to high school pretty quick. So with colts, I mean, it's kick them in the gut, see if they go. That's fine. After a bit, you want to get to where you can just move your leg and they go, and you have build sort of a staircase since you climb. And once you climb, I mean, all of these things were colts at one time, and some of them just climb further up the staircase than others. So those are the 3 basics that I've always harped on, but I've come to realize over time there is another basic that is every bit as important, and that is you've got to pay attention to your horse, and your horse has to be paying attention to you. If your horse isn't present, if their mind is off in the Bahamas on vacation, it doesn't matter how perfect your application of the basics may be. Doesn't matter how well you're riding. If they're not there with you, you're not going to be able to take them anywhere. When I was a kid, my dad told me a story, and like a lot of the last generation, he would tell you a story, then he'd just shut his mouth, and he'd leave you to think it over for maybe the rest of your life. So he told me the story of a fellow who had a wonderful mule, and it was almost like a bridle horse. You know, you could put him up, you could spin him, you could change leads on him, he'd go anywhere, and all just on the lightest feel. Well, he was in the business of selling horses and mules, so he sold the mule and told the fella, this is the lightest animal you'll ever ride. You know, you don't want to pull on his face, you don't have to kick him, he's just going to be right there with you. Well, a few weeks passed and the new owner must have got to retraining him a little bit because he wasn't steering and he was dull, and he called the seller and said, can you help me out with this? So the guy who had trained the mule goes there and looks at what the mule does, and he says, okay, just step off of him. And he goes over to the junk lumber pile that was laying there and picks up a 2x4 about 3 foot long and hits the mule alongside the jaw pretty hard. Gets on him, the mule's just as light as can be. And the other guy said, but you told me you could be so light with this mule. And he just said, yeah, but you got to get his attention first. So, you know, if it was as easy as that, I'd just have a bunch of 2x4 pieces sitting there and we'd just get on with it. But the idea is pretty clear that sometimes you may have to send them kind of a crude wake-up call to make sure they're there with you. And then you can do something. So those are the 4 basics. Go forward, give to the bridle, move off your legs, and be there for you. Be paying attention. And what we're going to do in the course of the day, I'm going to sort of ask people on their own horse or on somebody else's. You know, nobody's going to be negative, but what's lacking there? Why didn't that maneuver work? Which basic was missing? Because what's funny is you can do some pretty advanced maneuvers that have a little problem, and you don't fix them in the advanced maneuver. You go back to the basic, you plug that up, the hole in that, and then you go back to doing the maneuver and it's fixed itself. Trying to fix things in the maneuver usually just winds up with the horse learning to hate the maneuver. But if you can go upstream, you'll probably get to a place where you can fix things.